All right, so now we're going to look at the last section of the handout. It's pretty similar to the others, just a little different way you might see the problem. So with this first one, looking at problem 12 now, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could do it the way that we did on those last ones, where you you'd have to convert each answer choice into slope-intercept form. And once you convert it, then you could see which graph matches this. We could do that if we wanted to. Nothing wrong with that. I want to show you a different way so you have more tools in your tool belt for approaching these types of problems. We've talked before about how to figure out the equation of a line by looking at it. So I'm going to do that. So first thing I'm going to look at is, where does this line cross the y-axis? That's right down here. That's my y-intercept. So that's at -4. So I know that b, and y equals mx plus b, b in this case is -4. So now that I know what b is, I need to figure out what is m, what's my slope. And I can use any point where it crosses exactly on these grid lines, which here is a good one. I could also use this right here if I wanted to. I'm going to draw a triangle. It goes up and over, so it goes up 1, 2. That's a positive 2, goes to the right 1. So rise over run, 2 over 1. And that simplifies to 2. So the equation of this line is y equals 2x. That's a -4, so that's going to be -4. Now what I'm going to do is take each answer choice and convert it from standard form to slope-intercept form and see which one matches this. So let's start with A. Okay, for A, this is the same thing that we've been doing on those, so I'm going to go through it very quickly. That's a -2y. Please be sure to include the -2. I'm going to divide everything by -2. There's not a lot of space to write here, so write small or use some scratch paper if you need. So when I take these up here, that's going to be x over -2. I'm going to put a 1 in front of that x so I can see that that's really a 1 over -2, -1/2 x. -2 divided by -2, those cancel out because -2 divided by -2 is +1, so that's plus y, equals -4 divided by -2 is actually +2. Okay, so at this point, look at this number that you get. That will be your y-intercept. That is your y-intercept right there, and 2 is not the same as -4. That would mean that the graph will cross the y-axis at this point, which is wrong. So we know that choice A is incorrect. So let's go on to choice B. See what we get there. With B, same thing. Circle that with the negative sign. Once again, very crucial. I'm going to put a number here. The number that goes in front of y in this case is 1. So that's a -1. So I'm going to divide everything in the equation by -1. So when I bring it up here, 2 over -1. Whenever you reduce that, you can put it in your calculator as a fraction if you need to, but 2 divided by -1 is -2, so that's just a -2x. -1 divided by -1 in this case is +1, so that just leaves me a positive y, equals 4 divided by -1 is -4. So now that I have this, I need to look and see. This is my y-intercept. It matches. Okay, so we got a match so far. Let's do the rest of the work and see what we get. I need to move this -2x over to the other side. So as I do that, that -2x, when it switches sides, it becomes +2x. -4, and hey, that's a match. So answer choice B is the correct one. Now, if this was, if choice B was not correct, you would just continue working along with C and D until you got one that was a match. And if you wanted to convert each of these and then check if the graph makes sense after you convert them all to standard or to slope-intercept form, that's completely fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. This is, these are two similar ways of finding the answer to these types of problems. So you can do it that way if you would rather, or you can look at what the equation of the line is first. That's totally your choice. So I'm going to do number 13 very quickly as well so we can see that one, because I think these are a little tricky. I'm going to let you do the rest on your own. So 13, I'm going to look at what is my y-intercept. What is B? In this case, it's right here. I can see that's at 1, so B is positive 1. And M, I'm going to count my slope and see my points. Okay, so that's one I could use. Down here, I have another one that I could use. I wanted to use this one down here. I'm going to draw the triangle this way. So I'm going to do it a little differently. So remember, rise over run. I go down 1, so I'm going to write -1, and then I go to the left 2. Remember, down is negative and left is negative. So my rise is -1, and my run is -2. We know that -1 over -2 simplifies to +1/2, which makes sense because this line goes in a positive direction. So the equation for this line is y equals 1/2 x plus 1. All right, now you got to just do the slow work of converting each of these answers into slope-intercept form and see which one matches. So let's look at choice A. Choice A, got a -2 there. I'm going to divide everything in the equation by -2. And what I get is x over -2. I'm going to end up with, I'm going to write a 1 again, so 1x over -2. -2, hold on just a second. My pen seems to have messed up. -2 over -2. -2 divided by -2 is +1, so that's plus y. Equals 4 divided by -2 is -2. So once again, look at this is my y-intercept. -2 is not correct, so I know that choice A is wrong. B. Moving on. B. Same thing. Circle. It's negative. There's a 1 that goes in front of that y that's not written there, so I divide everything by -1. And I've got 2x. When I bring this up, I got 2x over -1. So instead of 2x over -1, what that actually is, 2 divided by -1 is -2. So that's a -2x. -1 divided by -1. Here, that's +1. So I end up with positive y, so plus y, equals -5 divided by -1 is +5. And that is not correct, because 5 and 1 do not match. So B is incorrect. Let's continue moving on with C. Here, that's a -2y, so I divide everything by -2. Your paper is probably getting cluttered at this point. I would recommend writing very small, or if you need to, use a scratch sheet of paper. So divide each of those. So for C, I have 1x over -2, can't be reduced. -2y divided by -2. So -2 divided by -2 is 1, so +1. So I end up with positive y equals a -2 divided by -2 is +1. Okay, so this one right here, my y-intercept, that does match. So okay, we're on to the next step. I need to move my x variable over to the other side. So I have y equals, when this is negative over here, when it moves, and we switch sides to the other side of the equal sign, that becomes positive. So that's 1/2 x, and this 1 doesn't change, so it's still +1, and that's our match. So choice C is the correct answer. All right, so finish problems 14 through 17, and you should be good to go.